Hey, Dan Passarelli here. I remember a long time ago when I bought my first house, we had the home inspector come over, and I was pretty young. I'd never bought a house before, and I was there when he was there. And I just kept asking him, can you check on this? Can you check this? Is this okay? Is there a problem here? And finally, he just said, I'll keep looking, but I've done this a lot. And one thing I know is that if you go looking for a problem, you're going to find it. I've been hearing some rumblings about a certain thing. And, well, today I went and looked to check it out, and I found a little bit of a problem. Well, let's flesh out exactly how big and what implications there might be. For the past few years, since about 2021, the auto loan delinquency for the subprime auto market has been growing and growing and growing. Right now, it's the highest since Fitch Ratings began making records of it back in the early 90s at 6.6%. Now, the prime auto loans, they're not so bad. They're at about a 0.4%, and you can see here, that actually looks like it's kind of in the bottom half of the delinquencies since they started recording this. So what does that mean? Well, the subprime auto loan market is about a $19 billion market. 6.6% of that, that's somewhat over $1 billion of loans that are 60 or more days delinquent. So a little over $1 billion. What are those implications? Well, the biggest players in the subprime market, some of them are private companies like Santander Consumer. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Westlake Financial. Credit Acceptance is one that is a publicly traded company. Here's a 6-month chart of it. In fact, let's go to a full 1-year chart of it. Not doing too bad as a stock here, but they're one of the bigger players. Credit Acceptance, one of the bigger players in the subprime market. So what happens when lenders, financial institutions that facilitate lending, in this case for subprime auto buyers, what happens when they run into trouble? Well, when they're publicly traded big banks, what tends to happen is, they get bailed out by the Fed or the federal government. And I do make that distinction because they are kind of two different things. For a $1 billion market that is fractured among a handful of big companies, I'm not sure how big of a deal that might be, but it is pretty much over $1 billion. So the question becomes, if there is some trouble because they're private companies, did the private companies even get bailed out? And that being said, with the Trump administration wanting to cut costs and do a lot of what is traditionally a conservative approach to a lot of business, do they say, no, you're on your own and not bail them out? I'm not sure about some of these answers, but it is a $1 billion problem that came to my attention. And I don't have any positions in Credit Acceptance or any of these other lenders, but I'm watching. And I think that the bigger this problem does end up growing, if we see this subprime delinquency rate higher and higher, especially as the auto tariffs come into play at 25%, driving up the prices of autos, that could have an effect on this. And it could have an effect on the auto industry as a whole, kind of a double whammy type scenario. So that's something that's on my radar, and I hope it helps. This is Dan Passarelli, Trade Smart.